They told you to love yourself, but did they ever teach you how? Welcome to the place where uncomfortable truths live, where we dig beneath the surface and ask the questions the world wants you to ignore. Now listen closely, because what I'm about to tell you might ruin every quote you've ever saved. In a world that's falling apart, where loneliness hides behind selfies, and pain wears the mask of positivity, the idea of self-love sounds like salvation. They preach it everywhere. Put yourself first. You are enough. Love yourself and everything will fall into place. It sounds good, say, comforting. But that's the lie. Because what they sold you isn't self-love. It's self-indulgence disguised as healing. It's narcissism rebranded as empowerment. It's avoidance in pretty packaging. True self-love isn't bubble baths and filtered mantras. It's standing in front of your reflection and asking, who am I when no one's watching? It's facing your addictions, your patterns, your lies. It's taking responsibility for the chaos you helped create. It's brutal. It's raw. And it doesn't look good on Instagram. But the world doesn't want you to know that. Because if you think self-love is comfort, you'll never ask for more. You'll stay numb, compliant, alone, but thinking it's power. You'll confuse coping for healing, and weakness for acceptance. And slowly, you'll rot in a velvet prison, decorated with affirmations, built from delusion. They want you to believe that you're perfect, just as you are. But how can that be true? If everything about you was built in survival, how can you love a version of yourself that was never truly you? Only the reaction to years of abandonment, betrayal, and fear? You call it your personality, but most of it is armor. You call it strength, but much of it is numbness. You call it independence, but it's just the refusal to rely on anyone ever again. Because the last time you did, it broke you. And now, they tell you to look in the mirror and say, I love myself. But what are you loving really? The masks? The personas? The curated image you built so no one would see how much you hurt? That's not self-love. That's self-preservation wearing makeup. And the worst part is, this lie sells. Entire industries profit from your confusion. Self-help books, wellness influencers, therapists who tell you to embrace your truth, without ever challenging where that truth came from. You think you're healing, but you're just decorating your wounds. Because real self-love is not about feeling good. It's about feeling everything. Even the things you swore you'd bury forever. It's about sitting with your shame, tracing your rage back to its roots, unpacking the resentment you carry like religion. It's uncomfortable, violent even, because to truly love yourself, you have to be willing to destroy the parts of you that were never yours to begin with, the voices in your head that sound like your parents, the rules you follow that no longer serve you, the self-image you cling to because you're terrified of who you'd be without it. That kind of self-love, it doesn't look good in a caption. It's not marketable. It doesn't trend. It doesn't end with a smile. It ends with silence, with isolation, with moments of terrifying clarity where you realize you've never actually met yourself. Not fully, because you've spent your entire life performing for love, for acceptance, for survival. And now the mask has melted onto your face, and you don't know where it ends and where you begin. So no, you are not enough just as you are. You are potential. You are fire barely contained. You are 1,000 versions of yourself waiting to be uncovered, unlearned, and reborn. But none of that is possible if you cling to the fantasy that healing means feeling safe. Sometimes, healing means feeling like everything you believed was a lie, because it probably was. They said you just need to love yourself, but they didn't warn you that real self-love would break you first, because once you stop pretending, once you see through the glittering lie they sold you, you can't go back to who you were. You begin to question everything. You start asking dangerous questions, like, who taught me how to treat myself this way? Why do I find comfort in what hurts me? What version of me is still hiding in the basement of my soul? waiting to be let out? This is where the pain sharpens, where the old coping mechanisms don't work anymore, but the new ones haven't formed yet. You're suspended between death and rebirth. You stop laughing at the jokes that mask your sadness. You stop saying, "I'm fine," when you're crumbling. You stop pretending your trauma is empowerment. You start seeing the truth, that healing isn't cute, that growth doesn't always come with peace, that love, real love, requires confrontation, not just with others, but with yourself. You confront the version of you that sabotages every good thing, the version that pushes people away and calls it independence, the version that numbs, escapes, avoids, and calls it boundaries. And here's what hurts the most. You realize you've abandoned yourself over and over again, and you mistook that abandonment for strength, but you can't unsee it now. You start building a new kind of love, one that doesn't require pretending, one that doesn't need an audience, one that holds space for your darkness without letting it run your life. And slowly, you stop seeking love that feels like home, because for many of us, home was a battlefield. You begin creating a new home inside yourself, with truth as the foundation, with discipline as the structure, with grace as the light that comes through shattered windows. This is self-love, not the hashtag, not the product, not the soft whisper telling you everything's okay, but the raw, soul-deep reckoning with everything you are and everything you're not. And from that chaos, you rise, not as someone who's finally healed, but as someone who knows healing is a lifetime commitment, a constant choice, a sacred rebellion. Because in a world that thrives on your brokenness, loving yourself in truth is a revolutionary act. If this made you feel seen, don't keep it to yourself. Subscribe, because the war for your mind has just begun.